Day 93, June 19th, 2026, year 5991 a.m., 6th day of the week, Friday, 3rd day, 4th month. Preparation in the wilderness, the first Friday of the quarter. Daily devotion by Pastor Shane Vaughn. Exodus 16 and 5. And it shall come to pass that on the 6th day they shall prepare that which they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they have gathered daily. Proverbs 6:6-8. Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise, which provideth her meat in the summer, and gather her food in the harvest. It is Friday in the wilderness, the 3rd day of the 4th month. And before the sun goes down today, you stand in the long Hebraic tradition of Erev, the evening of preparation, the holy work of getting the house ready for the Sabbath that is already on its way. Exodus 16 is where Yahweh first formalized the discipline. Israel had just stepped out of Egypt and into the wilderness. There were 6 weeks into the journey when the manna began to fall, and from the very first week, Yahweh built the Friday principle into his provision. On the 6th day, gather twice. Prepare for the Sabbath. Do not be caught on the 7th morning with an empty basket and a complaining mouth. Use Friday for what Friday is for. The wilderness is the season when preparation becomes the difference between thriving and surviving. In Egypt, you could barely care less about Friday. The markets were open 7 days. The granaries were never empty. The work never stopped. But in the wilderness, the provision arrives daily. The Sabbath is enforced. And the believer who fails to prepare on Friday will spend Sabbath in scarcity instead of rest. The 4th month is teaching you rhythm of provision. Preparation is the doorway through which Sabbath enters your house. Proverbs 6 sends you to the ant. She provides her meat in the summer and gathers her food in the harvest. This is not a teaching about hoarding. It is a teaching about timing. There is a time to gather and a time to rest. The ant knows the difference. The sluggard does not. The sluggard treats every day the same and ends up unprepared for the day that requires having gathered. Wisdom is reading the calendar of Yahweh and acting according to it. What does preparation look like on a Friday in the wilderness? Practically, it looks like cooking the meal for tomorrow so you don't have to cook tomorrow. It looks like setting the clothes out, paying the bills, returning the calls, and closing the loop so that tomorrow is not haunted by the unfinished business of today. It looks like turning the phone over earlier than usual, walking through the house and putting it in order, and entering the Sabbath through a doorway of completed work rather than a doorway of half-done frenzy. And it looks like one more thing the modern believer almost always neglects: spiritual preparation. Sabbath does not need just a clean kitchen. It needs a clean conscience. Friday is the day to make the apology you've been deferring, to confess the sin that you've been carrying, to forgive the brother that you've been resenting. Carry no Friday debts into the Sabbath. The 7th day is not a vault for unresolved Fridays. It is a feast for prepared hearts. Reflection questions. Do I prepare on Friday, or does Sabbath arrive at a house that is still in the chaos of Friday? What spiritual preparation, confession, forgiveness, apology, restoration is Yahweh asking me to do before the sun goes down tonight? Have I been treating every day the same, like the sluggard, or am I learning the timing of an ant who gathers in the season for gathering? Prayer. Yahweh, Master of rhythms, El of the sixth day, thank you for the gift of Friday, and thank you for a day that is not Sabbath, but is sacred because it makes Sabbath possible. Forgive me for the Fridays I have wasted in rush of doing tomorrow's work today and leaving today's work for tomorrow. Teach me to be like the ant. Teach me to gather in the season of gathering. Teach me the wisdom of Friday, the practical wisdom of the closed loop, and the spiritual wisdom of cleansed conscience. Before the sun goes down tonight, let me prepare the house. Let me prepare the heart. Let me make the apology I have deferred. Let me clean what has been postponed. Let me set the table for the guest who is already on her way. And when Sabbath enters at sundown, let her find me ready, not frenzied, but ready, not exhausted, but ready, not still in the chaos of Friday, but ready. In Yeshua's name, the Lord of the Sabbath. Amen.